Okay, we've looked at line and how Charles Birchfield used line, and you've defined it in your section. So line is the path of a moving point. That's kind of lofty, don't you think? But I love Paul Klee. You say that, Klee. I love his definition of line. He said a line is a dot that went for a walk. And if you think about that, if I have a dot here and it goes for a walk, it is kind of the path of a moving point, isn't it? So a dot that went for a walk, I'm sure you'll remember that way faster than you'll remember the path of a moving point. So in your sketchbook, in this section online, you're going to use a pencil, but I'm doing a pen so that I'm using a pen so you can see it a little better on the video. So we saw a lot of different kinds of lines. We saw some vertical lines, longer vertical lines. We saw some short series of vertical lines. We saw in the tree those jagged lines. And I like how he repeated, kind of echoed those lines over and over again. We saw some lovely curved lines in the other tree. There were two trees, weren't there? We saw some vertical lines. We saw a lot of diagonal lines. Now, lines can create a sense of movement when they're diagonal or when they're repeated. There's a rhythm and a movement there. So lines will create a sense, and this is of something, and that's why artists use them. So I want you to look around the room, which is what I'm doing, and I'm looking for different kinds of lines. Look at these lines. Lines. Then I have this line in the sketchbook coming over, and then I have, you could almost make a little short fat line. Remember the windows? Some short fat lines. So they can be fat too. Okay, so you're going to look around and create a sense of line. So pause the video, or look for lines and draw them that are here in the room. Then I want you to pause the video before you move on and do this, okay? Then unpause it, and then you're going to come back to another drawing. Okay, so now that you've done this and you've done some of your own lines, hopefully not copying mine, you're going to do what we call a contour line drawing. Contour line means it's the edge. Okay, sometimes you have an outline drawing, but we're not doing an outline. We're doing the edge of everything. So I'm going to just sit here and look out my window. So I'm at home. And I'm going to draw the edge of one of the flowers outside. And I can pick up my pen if I want. Sometimes I'm going to ask you to not pick up your pen. The edge of a flower, petal. Just looking, and I like to refer to, when I'm teaching people this, that there's a little bug crawling along the contour of everything, and he's called a contour bug. And when he turns a corner, your eye should turn with it. You are, remember that path of a moving point? So that bug is your little moving point. And I'm creating just kind of, and it's not a very pretty little drawing, but it is a contour drawing. It's the edge. I've not done any shading. Okay, so look around the room, find something out of your supply box, or it can even be something like a pen or a pencil. And I want you to do a contour drawing. So there's no shading, and it's only showing the edge of everything. Okay. Next thing is we're going to look at a shape. A shape is basically an enclosed space. So if I take, and I made some shapes up here, right? If I take this and make a shape, oh, not a shape yet, is it? Whoops, let me get on there. Not a shape yet, is it? I have to enclose that space and it becomes a shape. There are different kinds of shapes. This is called an organic shape. That means it's nature-based, okay? Right here is an organic shape. What kind of shape is this? Shapes, I guess, right? These are geometric shapes. Geometric shapes. Okay, so you have organic shapes, you have geometric shapes. A shape is an enclosed space. It's two-dimensional. It's two-dimensional. As soon as I make something three-dimensional, it becomes a form. So if I want to make this three-dimensional, I add some, or it's not really three-dimensional, is it? I just made it appear three-dimensional, but I add another side to it. So now it appears three-dimensional. If I want to make this guy appear to be three-dimensional, I make it look like a form. We're going to talk about that again in a minute on another education. So now it's a form. I can take, and we'll practice all these things later, can make a cylinder out of this as well. Okay, so there's forms and shapes. Shape are two-dimensional, forms are three-dimensional. Look around the room and see where you can see some other interesting shapes or forms, and fill this area of your sketchbook with shapes and forms. We're going to come back to forms later when we practice our value, our practice making values and creating values. And you do a lot of that, making shapes into forms with value. So look around the room, find some shapes and forms and practice those.